Gonna be so awesome. All right, I think we're live now. Thank you so much, guys, for bearing with our technical challenges, but I promise that tonight it will be worth it. It is going to be an awesome, amazing experience. Not just an interview, not just two chicks on camera, but it's going to be an experience, and we have a chance to learn so much. So let me just double check.
Yeah, I'm clicking in just to double check.
I think it's working. Everyone can hear us and see us. Let us
Perfect.
know.
Yay!
Yay! Awesome. Okay, so my name's Layla Black. Welcome to this page. You guys are seeing this beautiful graphic, and this is like one of my favorite pictures of you, Shanny. They're looking at the that beautiful moment there, and life is filled with amazing moments, and I know that tonight's going to be one of those moments. So thanks, guys, for joining us. Make sure you do us a favor, share this out. Share it with someone you love. Share it with someone. If you have been impacted by the Hoversons, then make sure that you share the love. Now let's see if we can bring ourselves out here. Can you see us now? Okay, so they should be able to see our actual faces on the screen sometime soon. So if you guys are watching, let us know where you're watching from in the comments. Leave a comment, say what. Sorry about the technical challenges. I really appreciate you guys finding our new stream. I don't know what happened. It was the robots. It was the Facebook robots. All right. Shannon, can we hear you? Let's make sure we can hear you.
Yes, can you hear me? Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. It's going to be a pleasure. I was very honored to have Layla, who is the Facebook Live queen herself. And so when she reached out wanting to interview, you know, I haven't ever talked about this live, and so I'm a little nervous, excited, and I thank you for inviting me.
Yay! Everything sounds amazing, and we are all here together. Thanks so much, Toby Black, for the tech support on hand.
Good thing is right, Toby. We love you.
Thank goodness for our ninja guru in the background. So yeah, well, first of all, before we start telling the story and going into some of the, you know, the tougher moments, I want to share something that really inspired me. You know, when I first met you guys, Toby and I were newbies, total newbies. Somehow ended up on this MLM Biz Builder cruise with all these gurus, and you know, we were just the type of people. Yeah, we were hungry. We wanted to learn from the best and surround ourselves with the best. And Mark was one of the speakers at the event, and he was talking, and I had all these light bulb moments sitting in this theater room on a cruise with these seven-figure earners.
When was this, Layla? This was 2009?
Yeah, I think almost maybe when my Facebook memories pop up, it's like 2009. So we've been connected for quite some time. Hi, Cynthia. Welcome, guys. Let us know where you're watching from. I see y'all jumping on now. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. It's going to be super fun and really impactful, because Shannon has a story that, you know, from the first moment that I met her, inspired me. From the first moment that I met her, you know, I was drawn to her deep connection with Mark. And so I saw him speaking on stage, and I was like, oh, you know, I got to know this guy. I got to learn more from the Hoverson. And you guys said that you were doing a private like a private class for couples. And so Toby and I, we were actually brand new couple. Like, we had been maybe together for 5 months at this point.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Broke musicians, just like happy on a dream, thinking, you know, oh, we're going to make this big. We're going to be, you know, we're going to crush it. And really, really hungry for success. I remember at that point, we were just, you know, we were sponges. So I was like, okay, we have to go to this class. And you guys started talking about your relationship and your love on this journey, and how it's grown and how you've grown together. Anybody out there in business with your spouse? If you are, just say me. So Toby and I have been in business together for the last 9 years, in each other's pocket every single day, every single moment, being home, you know, just constantly. And it has definitely been a test. And I look to you guys, I still look to you guys as mentors in our relationship, and you know, that guiding light of what I want to teach my kids about love and about business and about passion and about all these things that I've learned from you guys. So I'm excited that everybody that's watching gets the chance to learn from some of our first mentors, you and Mark Hoverson. So thanks, Shani, for coming. And I know this you haven't done a lot of interviews yet, but we've been watching your journey unfold. So I guess, like, tell us, let's go back in time a little bit before all the success with Mark. And if you're watching and you have a Mark story, we want you to share your Mark stories. We want you to type them. We want you to live them and remember them, and shout them out to the world in the comments below. But before all the success with Mark, before he was, you know, traveling the world and you were on this freedom mission, and he was, you know, having multi seven-figure launch weeks, like, before that, take us back to, because I remember hearing the story of the trailer. I remember hearing lots of the stories, but let people know, like, paint us a picture where you guys were at before that success happened.
Oh, we're going way back. Okay, so Mark and I were married for almost 16 years. So if we go way back, I'm going to take you back to, I guess, the year before we officially got married, we were engaged. And I remember, just to give some context here for how Mark and I got together, we were total platonic friends for 5 years. And I remember wanting him from day one that I met him. You know, I just thought he was a hottie patati and just was ready to be with him. But I was a tomboy, and he was not into me that way. So finally, so I just, you know, come year 5, you know, we're about 20 years old, and I'm kind of giving up on the whole idea of him and I being together. And so one day he calls me up, and he's got relatives in South Dakota, where I'm from. He's in North Dakota. And I remember him calling me, being like, hey, you know, me and my family, we're going on this camping trip. Do you want to come join us? And at that point, I actually was like, no. I'm like, no, I don't want to go, because my emotions of liking him and wanting him, I just was over it. It was too hard for me to keep being friends with him. This is kind of a cute story, because it gives you a look into who Mark was and who he is. And he, you know, he really does think things through, and sets intentions before he does things. And so whether it's business, whether it's family, whether it's life, he sets intentions and he thinks about it before he takes action. And so I, of course, give in, and I go on this trip with him because I can't resist. And so he has this whole entire trip planned out, and we're walking along the beach, and he just was like, you know, at the end of the story, he's just like, how disappointed would you be? Because I was going to go to hair school. It was in 2 weeks. He's like, how disappointed would you be if you moved up to North Dakota and we got married? And of course, I was like, of course I'm going to do that. Like, why wouldn't I just, you know, not do that and join you, because I've wanted you for 5 years. And so I moved up with him. I lived in one of his parents' 1-bedroom rentals, which is where him and I lived in once we got married. And the funny part is, why I'm talking before we got married, is it was probably a month before we got married, and I didn't even find out through him, but I found out through a friend that he lost his job. So we're going into getting married within a couple of weeks, and I realize I'm marrying this man who doesn't have a job. And I'm like, what is going on? And I'm a secretary for an attorney in North Dakota, which my salary was not that big. And so I'm thinking, who am I marrying? Like, we are getting married and he doesn't have a job. And so we get married, and we live in this cute little 1-bedroom house, and he still is not working. And I know this might go into your next question a little bit, Layla, but it's part of our story and Mark's heart for entrepreneurship and his teacher's heart, to where we lived in this 1-bedroom apartment, and he continued not to work while I did, and I actually supported him. This was his first drive. Now, remember, this is back in 2002 we got married, and so the internet, like, I think maybe MySpace was around. I'm not sure, but like, I'm talking like
MySpace.
Like, I think email just, you know, was getting more popular and whatever. So websites and all that took a lot more work. And so we were in the basement, and I remember going down and just, you know, kind of wondering, is he going to get a job? Like, you know, it's been several months, you know, he was wanting to do coaching. He had this coaching, whole coaching plan. I think he was charging maybe 10K back in 2002, which is huge. And I think now Chris Widener, if you happen to be watching this at some point, I think it was him. If anyone knows who he is, he worked with Jim Rohn, Zig Ziglar for a while. And I think he reached out to Mark, and that was, a really big deal for Mark, who had never done any kind of coaching, any kind of training, but he was putting himself out there at the age of 23. And so that's just where his heart is. Anyways, keep moving forward from that. He did finally get a job. He worked in, those big windmills that make, the wind and it provides electricity. Okay, he worked in there, and it's like a 6 foot, the entrance is like a 6 foot hole. And I remember he had like a full astronaut suit on, would come home with like fiberglass in his hair and whatnot. But he would go in there, and he worked just long enough to get us insurance, because we got pregnant with Isaac, our firstborn son. He was born 9 months and 3 days after we got married. And so the insurance kicked in just in time before Isaac. And so we moved from the little 1-bedroom into our first trailer, which was in Manville, North Dakota. So that was our first experience. We lived in that trailer, and then he got a youth pastor job in Maryland, and we moved to another trailer. And so, we lived in an apartment. I got stories. We could talk all night, but I got some crazy stories. We moved, probably like you live in the bottom of a bar, but like we moved in this 1-bedroom apartment. And I remember hearing like cops and helicopters, and, we're just newlywed. We got this little tiny 6-month-old baby, and it's like, crimes happening right outside of our door. And, and then to me, it was an upgrade to move to this trailer from this 1-bedroom apartment. So, yeah, the beginning years were, they were interesting, but I never thought anything of it. Maybe because I didn't come from a super wealthy family, but I never lacked anything. And I just always trusted Mark, and I just knew eventually I felt safe with him. No matter where we were, I trusted and I felt safe with him. And that's who Mark is. That's his personality. And so even though we kept moving from one trailer to the next, I just knew something was going to come eventually.
And it's funny because, we paint the picture of the trailer or the basement of a bar, where these love stories happen and these journeys began. And then it's actually funny because I want to sell everything and just buy an RV or a bus and like just totally minimize my life and get back to the trailer. But yeah, it really is powerful when you can share, that fact that even though you didn't have, a fancy 4,000 square foot home or a giant yard, that you still had that fulfillment, like there wasn't anything that you were missing. But also you talk about the stress, right? And the stress and some of the worry that happens, especially when you just get married and you don't have a stable income, and we're programmed to.
So that happened after he left the youth ministry and got into his first. And you can lead into that if you want to, but that did come, and I've got stories to share about that too.
Yeah, for sure. I'll give everybody a shout out. I see you guys jumping on here. Thanks so much for hanging out with us here. Me and Shanny sharing some of the insightful lessons that she learned, and she's sharing along this journey that she's been on. And we're gonna be dropping her brand new blog, so stick with us, okay, guys? Because you're gonna get to check it out first. It is super fly. If you want it, say we want the blog, okay, and we'll hook you up with the blog. But we'll show you guys.
The point of the blog too is if you don't know who I am or who Mark is, this is gonna tell the journey of what's been going on the last couple of years, so you get to know us.
Yeah, so we did kind of answer that one story, but that's one of the things that I love to touch on when I interview people is that moment, because we've all had it. And if you're watching it and you've had this moment, say, I've had that moment. Tell us what your moment was. But that moment when you first, you have, I don't know, if you go to Google or something and you type like make money online or work from home, and it's that first exposure to outside of the box, a non-traditional entrepreneurial journey. Like, when did that light bulb moment happen for Mark? And what was it like for you? Were you supportive or were you kind of questioning?
Yeah. So, like all of us, we grow through life. We grow as life goes on. And I feel like was always a very supportive wife. Like, so when he first got his vision, so it was after the youth ministry. It was to the point where I think I was pregnant with number three. So we had 4 kids in 4.5 years. I'm pregnant with number three. We're living in Kansas at this point, and I mean, there's no furniture in the house. We have a little, I think, 12-inch. Maybe it was black and white TV. It might have been color, but it was like this tiny little TV, just bare minimum everything. And I remember like mortgages due. I've got kids to feed. I'm more concerned about the kids than I am anything else. And so I was always supportive. But I will say now you have to remember, we have to put it in context, the time frame too. So back in 2000, and this would have been 7, internet marketing was new still. I mean, it was new. And so that's like Mark did his own coding to make websites. Now you have done for you websites. I mean, can you picture Mark Hoverson, Mr. Non-techie guy, doing his own coding for a website? I mean, it's just so funny for me to think about. And so he, got coaching, I think, from Jeffrey Combs back in 2007. And that's kind of what catapulted his spark to really go hard into internet marketing. His first product, even then, it was a travel product. But I remember back then it was Smile and Dial. You had to buy your leads, right? And so you get these pieces of paper and you're just crossing off each one that you call. And I remember there's one time, I am going to say like 99%, Mark, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I would say 99% of the time I was supportive of him. There is one story, and I'm only going to this does not make me look good at all, but I'm going to share it to anyone out there that can like relate to it. But I remember one time he was, you smile and you dial and you're putting all this hard work and you paid for coaching. He's trying to make it work to provide for the family freedom. And I remember one time I'm sitting there, I think I was just exhausted with the kids and pregnancy and whatever. But I remember the phone ringing. And back then you had the phones on the wall. And I remember the phone ringing. And I said to him, "Oh, you better go run and get it." Like, that was the one time I mocked like his journey. And I still, to this day, I'm like, oh, like, it's just so not me to do that, but I did it. And I remember he had the confidence enough, though, to tell me, to rebuke me and say, "Don't you ever mock me again when I'm trying to, make this work for the family." And from that point on, and until that point, I was supportive. I had a breaking moment. And then from that point, I was like, oh, shit. So and I think
it's funny that you say that, because I think a lot of us, especially, the ones that do know Mark, know that he will call you on your shit, and he, he will not tiptoe around it. Like, if you were at a line, he'll tell you, and he'll allow you to learn the lesson from it. And like you said, we're just at that point of frustration, and I had 3 kids in 4 years. So yes. I know at the end of that, you can turn into a snappy wife sometimes. But yeah, that's one thing that I always loved about Mark, is he called you on it, and he forced you to just bring awareness to it. And another thing is, he didn't let that,
and what I love about that, though, is he didn't let that stop him. He didn't let that frustrate him or flurry his mind, to let that stop him. And really from that point, I did whatever, kept the kids, quiet in the house. And then you started making sales. We moved back to North Dakota. Businesses were taking us. We moved by family. And I remember we moved. It was a smaller house, and, with the small kids. And I remember at first he worked from home. And I remember him like snapping his fingers. And I'd have to, when he'd do a webinar, that's when YouTube, was on the rise. And I'd have to keep the kids quiet. So I never fought that. So no, the majority of the time I supported him. And I like I said, it's really odd. And maybe it's because, maybe this is a whole marriage conversation too. If you're looking to be with somebody, or you are with somebody, more so if you're looking to be with someone, I was in love with Mark. Like, I truly loved him and wanted to serve him and wanted to please him. At our wedding day, some people said I took him back 50 years because I washed his feet as a symbol at our wedding that I wanted to serve him, and not like a weird submission, do whatever he says way, but I truly wanted him to succeed. I saw something in him. He had a calling, and I wanted to support that and help him grow that. So when you're with somebody, just make sure, like, you're in this. How much are you willing to serve them and support them? As long as it's still wise for the family to help them grow in their calling.
Right. And it almost, it almost transcends into business as well. Who here that's watching has a business? If you have a business online, some kind of digital business, put a 1 in the comments so that we can see. So even if you have a business, it transcends into that focus of, you know, not what can I get, not what can I get from this prospect, what can I get from this lead, what can I get from this Facebook Live, but what can I give? And how much am I willing to give? And when you fully are committed to giving, and that's your focus, that's your drive, then of course you're going to be successful. Just like you guys were very successful in your marriage and in your relationship and your communication and the family that you've created. Like it's really, you have to just look at your kids and like just be so proud of what you and Mark created together, because it's amazing.
Thank you. So
we'll keep going through these. One of the things that I brought was this is something that I notice all the time, especially online, is that it's a male dominated world, and there's a lot of egos and I feel like the transition is happening, especially with powerful women and females that are rising up and taking social media by storm, because that's our nature. But yeah, back then, especially when I first got started like 9 years ago, it was a very male dominated industry. And I just wanted you to share some of the struggles, being a woman, being a wife, being, kind of in the background a lot of the time. What were some of the things that you were dealing with?
As far as, I think, so Mark and I had different roles. Now, maybe we're thinking of a different time frame, and you can stop me if we are, but, as he was growing, we were kind of old school. We, kind of had an understanding, and Mark, he created a product called Proverbs 31, which is in our Invisible Empire. And so throughout our marriage and our years, he's definitely, his mind changed, but we were old school in the beginning, to where it's like, I was home with the kids, and he worked, and he grew the business, and he did his thing. And so it's very different than like a husband and wife, like you and Toby, who work together. But as the kids got older, I think the hardest thing, that transitioning from, taking care of the kids and the house and whatnot, is entering into the business when Mark had already been in it for probably 5 years prior. And then maybe him expecting me to kind of know how to act or how to be, or him wanting me to rise up, and I didn't. But it wasn't, and then we talk about this throughout the years. So I think the struggle for me is maybe not living up at that time to how fast he wanted me to grow, maybe, during those moments. But he also understood and had grace. And, I really believe, like, sometimes don't fight timing. Don't try and force it, because look at where I am now. I'm like, so I worked behind the scenes with Mark, for the past, 5 years, and just doing all the background work, watching, helping, learning, participating. And now I am in it. Now I am running the 3 businesses, and it's just interesting, even though everything works out for a reason. And I think I got so good at all the back stuff that is helping me now, and you're helping me, different people, to come out more into the public eye aspect of it. And so the struggle, I think, was just maybe not in my own inner self. Mark never thought this about me, but I think it was my own inner self of not maybe growing as fast as him or living up to his expectations, if that makes sense. Because he was such a guru, he was so high up here. And so, maybe just thoughts of people thinking I should be too.
Yeah, for sure. And it does come back to like our own inner voices and our own fears and self-doubts. I think everybody out there can relate to that. And, just to see how amazing he was, when people would swarm him and, just be crying because he's had such an impact on their life. We just naturally go into like comparing game, and for you to realize and recognize that you did have your own roles, your own jobs that were so equally important. And then that transition period of learning the business. And now you know, being the presidento of the companies and taking that over and leading the empire and leading the charge. It's like the story unfolding. I can't wait for the book to come out because it will open up so many people's eyes and just give them that inspiration that they can do it too, you know. And it's like you said, as hard as it is, and I know it was really hard for a lot of people that were connected to Mark to, you know, for him to spread his wings and fly. And it was really, I can't imagine how hard it was for you. But then to have that awareness that, you know, everything does happen for a reason, and now you are going to let that fuel you and everything that you've learned. So we're going to talk about those last 4 years a little bit, because I know that was something that was probably one of the hardest things that you've ever done in your entire life. But let's just look at Mark in a whole. Like, looking back at Mark, what would you say are like some of the biggest lessons that he taught you along the journey? And if you're watching and, you know, you want to share yours, please do leave a comment. What were some of the biggest lessons that Mark taught you? And I'll share with you mine as well. But you go first, Shanny.
Yeah. So I think I have several, so we can maybe take team and go back and forth. But I think the number one, I do have my little tissue here just in case. Told myself I wasn't going to cry, so we'll see what happens. But I think the number one thing that I learned from Mark is intentions, setting intentions. Mark was the master, the king of setting intentions. It doesn't matter if it was, you know, Mark was, he had a lot of work. He had a lot of things to do. He had a lot on his plate. And I know that he felt, you know, I have this odd sense that he knew his time was going to be shorter because there was almost an urgency in him to get out as much as he could. So he was a very busy businessman, and a lot of people wanted his time. And so the family, we got time, but maybe not as much as, like, you know, someone goes to work 9 to 5 and they're home the rest of the night and they help with the kids or whatever the case may be. And I knew that was his role. I never bucked that. I never, you know, so going to intentions, when we would have family time, 10 minutes with Mark could have felt like an hour with him because of how much was packed into that 10 minutes. He set an intention. When we sat down at that table for a family Bible study, he blew us away and imparted into us so much wisdom. And or it was playing sports. Maybe he said, hey, I got 15 minutes. Let's play catch as a family, play football, whatever. How he made you feel in that moment, mind blowing. That's why I feel like so many people felt like they were his best friend too, the way they made them feel. But it's the intention. When he went into a room to speak, when he went into a private conference to talk to people, when he's at little 10 people meetings and they come up, he sets an intention to make that moment. He's thinking about you, Layla. He's thinking about the people, anyone who he's with, and how can he make them feel like they're a king or queen? How can he make them feel like they're number one and feel like they're the most important person on the world? So for me, it's the number one lesson is setting an intention and going into a situation, making it as spectacular as can be for the other person.
Yeah, no, intentions for sure. It's funny because that's kind of like my New Year's resolution revamped, is no more New Year's resolutions, but New Year's intentions. And if I know my intentions and if I'm crystal clear on what I want and how I want this experience to go, what I want people to learn and feel on this Facebook Live, setting those intentions, then I can live my life in those intentions rather than trying to resist some resolution. Anybody make any resolutions that you're already resisting? Right. But if you know your intention, right, you can pull yourself back to, well, what is it that I want? What's the life I want? Are these decisions, are these habits, are they in line with that intention that I set? So that's definitely been transformational for me. I remember Toby tells this story actually on our web class that we just recorded, but he tells the story of when he invested $5,000 to go do this private weekend coaching with Mark and go to your house, and we hung out with your family, and there was a bunch of
Oh, I
us in the
remember in
backyard.
Mesa. Yeah.
You remember that? Yeah.
Yeah.
So there was a ton of people there. Shout outs to like Tracy and Nicole and a bunch of people
Yeah.
that were out there. And that moment, actually, we'll go back further because it was in Vegas in like a breakout room, and I went to Dagan Smith and Toby went to Mark Hoverson. And I came back, I was all pumped up, I had notes, and I just looked at his face and he looked guilty. He looked like, I'm like, what? Why do you look like that? What did you do? And he's like, I bought the weekend thing. I bought it. And I'm like, how much was it? $5,000. I'm like, oh my God. We had no money at this time. We'd made no money. I'm like, how the heck are we going to do this? Like, how is this going to even happen? But he set the intention, right? He was like, we are going to be there. We have to be there. This is going to change our business. This is going to elevate our game. This is going to take us to the next level. We have to invest in our mentors and in our coaching, and we have to invest in ourselves. So we ended up going there, and I remember just one thing that Mark said to me that I like repeat on a daily basis in my business, in my life, that has transformed everything about my brand and my team and my ability to connect with people. And he said this, write this down if you're watching in the comments: a rising tide lifts all boats. A rising tide lifts all boats. So when you get online, it can feel like a dog eat dog world, right? It's like, oh, I can't share your video out because, then my audience will see you. Or, oh, I can't support you. And it's like this, we're constantly competing and like it's just like a cesspool of people trying to make money or whatever. So that was something that I really struggled with in the industry. And then when I had this epiphany, this shift in that weekend that we had made happen, that we put together, that we got there, he said that, and he said, that'll change when you start talking about other people, when you start celebrating other people, it's not about you anymore. It's about all of these success stories and this rising tide, even of people in different companies, people doing different things, people in different niches. This sharing the success of everyone helps us all. So that really changed for me, and was one of those big aha lessons. Just one of the many from Mark.
Yeah, just to piggyback on that, and that's a thing that Mark was, I feel like, brilliant at. He really wanted to shout out the leaders and the ones that were rising and give them credit. What confidence that built. And you want to know what's so great about that, though? Here's what's great about that. So we can get into Mark's cancer story a little more, but he edified so many people and so many gurus in the industry. Mark was their kind of guru, but he edified all of them. And when it came down to Mark needing other people's support, they rushed in, because he has always done that. He has always elevated and lifted and rose up everybody else and just lifted them up. That's huge. It's so huge. Just if you have a team, if you have people, one of the things Mark did is he lift people up. Don't be afraid that they're going to pass you up. So what if they do? If they do, they're going to give all credit to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
yeah, for sure. I think that, like even people that are watching, I know there's a bunch of people watching live or in replay land, #replay. Yeah. But yeah, if you felt lifted by Mark, just say, Mark lifted me up. Write that in the comments, because I know that for me, that every time I spoke to him, it just felt like he was lifting me up. It felt like he was seeing all of this potential and this power inside of me that I didn't even sometimes see myself. And he just would stare at you in the eyes in the camera, and I'd be like, you're looking into my soul again, Mark. You're looking into my soul. So let's talk about, because I have some of my friends on here that one of my friends, I'll give her a shout out, Cynthia, who just recently, one of her good friends lost their son to cancer, and it's like I almost feel like there's not a single person out there that hasn't been affected or had someone they know or love been fighting this disease. So share a little bit about that journey, because it was challenging for you, and I know that probably some of your most powerful lessons came from those moments.
Oh, yeah, that got my eyes watering. You know, it's interesting. It's interesting when you're married to a, forgot to put my little light on here. It's interesting when you're married to a person such as Mark, someone who is a guru, someone who is so strong, stubborn, maybe some people will call it. Because, you know, when we found out he had it, it was in 2014, and he didn't let anyone but inner circle people know for the first 2 years. So he's still going, he's speaking at Ray Higdon's event on stage. Ray didn't even know he had it. I mean, I had to keep it in, you know, and so I'm dealing with his emotions, you know, the different chemos and the hair falling out and kind of by myself, because he doesn't want anybody to know. And so I think for me, and it wasn't the requirement that he wanted me to keep it a secret. It was more watching him and just like, how are you doing this? And I think it was like watching his true belief, like, no, like, I'm not telling people. Partly I think he believed he was going to come through it, and he didn't want the attention to be on him. He didn't want to be known as the cancer guy. He wanted to be known for what he taught them and what they learned from him. And so there's two different aspects of the cancer. Then eventually, obviously, people found out about it. So if we talk about the before it became public, you know, it was a shock. It was, you know, just supporting him and doing whatever I can to help him in that process of growing. I mean, to see his strength, he was growing businesses. We have a business called Limitless, which is an online reality game. And he's growing this. And I don't know what to say, Layla. You might have to guide this, I guess, if you want me to go into the cancer part of it. But I mean, just to watch him, I think, was inspiring for me to know that he had this going on, knowing the pains that he has, the little side pains, the mind games, the everything going on, and he's still living life as though he doesn't have it and trying to keep it from the world.
Yeah, I mean, like, what would you say that going through that experience taught you?
It taught me that I have no fucking excuses. You know what I mean? Like, if he can go through what he went through, not that everyone has to be that. Not everybody has that calling or has that strength, and that's fine. But I think you know if you do. And he knew that he did. And I think for me, in the position that I'm in now, looking back at him and what he created and all the time we invested together, I am going to give it everything I got. I don't have what he had. I have my health. I have my strength. Yes, I have the pain, intent. Like, every day I still cry. I have my moments. I still cry every day. But I've got my support team. I've got the leaders that are helping me with the business. I have everything going for me. If I don't at least try and give it a shot, then what's the point? But I feel called. It's like I could, you know, if I felt like I should just give everything up and go get another secretary job and make it simple, I could do that. And then, but it's not. I have something in me. There's something in me that's pulling me. And so I'm following the pull.
Mm-hmm. And I'm not follow the pull.
I'm not going to resist the pull.
Follow the pull. I love that. Yeah, it is pulling you, and, you know, seeing you rise up and seeing you, you know, even in those moments where it's okay to cry, it's okay to go through that grief, and, you know, it's still new. Like, this is the first time that you've ever really spoken about it to the public out there, you know, in other than writing it down. You have some amazing posts, guys. Make sure you're going to get the blog. You're going to go get to read all of her stories. But yeah, this is the first time that you've shared on camera and actually speaking about it. So, you know, I know.
Yeah, so that's pre-cancer. And then we get into when people can, you know, start to see him have cancer. They start to see him losing the weight and to see him, the emotional status. A lot of it, yeah, you can leave if you want me to go into that or not. But so there's two different feelings, like when people knew and then when people knew, and the physicalness of it.
Yeah, well, you know, I still see Mark's videos pop up, and you start to see when things started to change for him. And for me, it was just like, I like you said, I have no fucking excuse not to be sharing this fire inside of me, because he is still going. He is still delivering. He's still making me have these light bulb brain explosions, and he could be in pain in the background, but he's doing this to serve. And it was such
So just to give a story on that. So we moved back to North Dakota this summer of 2018, moved everything from Arizona back here to be by family. And just speaking of like not resisting the pull, Mark, was very thin and he was still doing these Facebook lives. And I remember thinking, like, he doesn't, at this point, he doesn't care what he looks like. He just feels he's got something he wants to say and he wanted to share it with the world. And he had a lot of impactful teachings. And I remember one time he got done and I'm just, I think I was so in the moment too. I didn't have a lot of emotions or thinking during, because I'm just there to help him, whatever he wants to get done and said. But I remember he came inside one day after a teaching and he just, he fell to the ground because he was in so much pain. And I've seen him in these moments so many times where he's just on the ground, tears flowing. He's in so much pain. And I remember asking him, Mark, why are you doing this? Because it was getting hard for me to watch. It was getting too painful for me to watch him in this much pain. And I remember saying, Mark, why don't you just quit? Cancer, not being able to work, our family, for those of you who know our story, and the GoFundMe account that was created for us, the financial burden. He didn't want to leave our family, like, in that situation. And I remember sitting there telling him, like, Mark, like, I got this. Like, our family has this. Like, why are you still here? Why are you still? And I remember him just pausing, and he looked at me and he's like, I don't know how to quit. He's like, God is just going to have to take me, because he's like, I don't know how to quit. And for me, and most of us, it's like, shit, I could just hit the quit button any second. Like, hitting that quit button isn't so hard, it's right there, right within reach. And to hear someone say they don't know how to quit. Wow. And I was like, all right, from that point on, I was like, all right, let's go. So then I just, kept supporting him until the very end. And it was a very powerful, I'd never heard anybody say that they didn't know how to quit. And so that just shows you the type of man that he was. And
yeah.
That's huge lesson, I guess, in that too.
Yeah, it's like, well, I remember the first audio that I listened to of Mark was the Solomon CEO series, and it was so hilarious because I had actually somebody online gave me their login, right, and so I was like in there just geeking out like on this stolen course. I was like, oh my God, this stuff is absolutely golden. Like, this is shaping me into a master entrepreneur, and I didn't even pay for it properly. But I remember I was at an event and I think I said something to him. Like, I'm like, oh, I've just been going through your Solomon CEO series. And he's like, where did you get that? I was like, oh, shit. No. I'm like, because he knew, I don't know if he sees who buys it or, sees the sales come in, but he knew that I didn't buy it. And I was just like, oh my gosh, but it changed my life. And so many moments, so many lessons that come to mind from that series. It's actually if you guys have gone through the course, like, give some fist pumps if you agree that it was like a turning point in your life. So I'm super excited that even and we're going to talk about this as well, as like how Mark's still living even after he's passed away. He's still living in these courses, and Toby and I just diving in now to some of like the launch courses and some of these info blueprint, like all this stuff, going back in to have our moments with Mark. It's his legacy will live forever, for sure.
Is evergreen. Like, his teachings, all of his courses, and that was one thing that was really big for Mark is, one of his scriptures, Proverbs 13:22, says, good people leave an inheritance to their children's children. And that doesn't have to mean that money. And what I'm very excited about is Mark's teachings. If you can create something that is evergreen, it can be an info product, it can be a teaching, or if you're talking to someone, share stuff that can be shared through generations to come. So that is one thing I reassured Mark. I was like, Mark, our inheritance is your wisdom. All of the teachings that you left us, all of the nuggets. I'm like, my kids are going to be able to live. I'm going to get to see my grandkids go through Solomon CEO. Isaac went through it when he was 9 years old. And that's another thing I love about Mark is he was able to talk and teach in a way that a 9-year-old could understand it. And then someone who's 100 can benefit from it. It's just, yeah. So that's a powerful lesson too. Create things or stuff that is evergreen, that can last forever.
Yeah, like I always say, like if my Nan had a blog or if she had like Facebook Lives, oh my gosh, like I would just have a vault of infinite knowledge. And thankfully that like we do have Mark to carry on with courses like that Solomon CEO. I know a lot of people were, when I was talking about some of the things that we're working on, they were like, oh yeah, Solomon's, it kept coming up in conversations because it was so impactful. So maybe we'll give you guys the hookup and you can find out how you can get it. Okay, so let's talk about the hard stuff, okay? So the moment, like letting this hero of a man and seeing him in those final moments and then finally saying goodbye. I know you wrote this story of, going back to your house and falling on your bed, and I just was like, my heart was in pieces. And grief is something that it's like you don't even know how to talk about it or how to get through. You don't even know who you are at some moments. And just talk a little bit about, I guess, giving some kind of advice on how you made it through that.
Yeah, and I wouldn't say I made it through. I think I'm going through it.
Right.
It'll be 5 months come January 17th since he took his last breath. And crap. It's so hard. It's so hard. It's daily crying time. I think it's every day. In the beginning, it was like, there was days I just didn't want to get up. But I have 4 kids, and so I think having the kids helps. I think if I didn't have the kids there, it'd be a lot easier to just want to hit the quit button. It wouldn't take as much to live or survive, and I could just sleep all day. And there's been a few days where I have done that. But I think it's choosing, it's choosing to embrace the feelings. It's choosing to embrace those times. I was telling a friend of mine, I think the hardest part about this is Mark and I were best friends. We are soulmates. We always will be. I cannot wait to join him one day. I think the hardest part is I feel so lonely. It's just so lonely. And I'm not lonely for a lack of friends or things to do. It's losing that. It's a piece of me. He's a piece of me, and it's gone. And every day I just embrace. If I need to cry, sometimes I'm driving home in my car after I drop Gracie off from school or getting groceries or whatever. All of a sudden I'm looking out, it's a beautiful sunny day, sun shining on the snow, and I'm just bawling. And I just let it. I just let it just take me. I'm thinking different memories, different flashbacks. Oh, I think it was from Christmas. I was driving home, maybe Christmas Eve or something, and all of a sudden just all these memories, all these traditions, the way Mark would host Christmases with our kids and the Bible study, just how in order it was. Things are chaos. The kids, it's starting to finally settle down now to where we're kind of getting into an order, a routine. But it just went chaos. The kids went chaos, hating each other and name calling. And so I'm not just dealing with businesses and finances and my own stuff. I've got my kids and their emotions and, realizing that they're acting out because they're dealing with the death of their father too. And so I think embracing every moment, seeing the whole picture for what it is, and realizing that you are in a season. I am in a season. For me, when I'm in those moments, I let the moment happen. I cry or I yell or whatever it may be. And then I take a deep breath. I was thinking about this in the car today, how Mel Robbins talks about, she's got the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, blast off, get going. So for me, this is another side story, but Isaac and I just had our first boxing lesson, so watch out next time I see you, Layla. But for me, it was more, Rocky keeps coming into my head, and I'm on the ground. I'll have that moment, and I can hear counting 7, 8, 9, and before that ref gets to 10, I'm like, oh hell no, like I'm not done. I'm not gonna lose this. I'm not gonna lose this fight. That's what gets my butt up, and I'll jump up and I'm like, I made it. Like I am up. And so I think it's embracing the moment, letting it take me, and getting up before that ref hits 10 and realizing that I'm in a season, and this season doesn't last forever. This is not a forever season. I can see the future, vision the future. I see it. I see what I want to happen. I see what I want to happen for the kids. I can see the kids when they're in their 20s and they're all getting along and we're all having a beer together, talking about the memories of Mark and how far we've come. And I'll remember when we used to beat each other up and say we didn't like each other and, that was funny, like, and it's going to be okay. And I know that, and I just hold on to that, and I believe it, and I believe it enough, it's going to happen. And so, and the foundation that Mark and I gave them together as young kids, I just keep telling myself it's going to be okay. And then even like Toby has told me, even though I wasn't totally involved in the business, I was around it. I was around it 24/7. And I learned, and I'm trusting and believing in myself that I am capable to do this. And obviously with the help of others, and just keep going. So like, I think the biggest advice is embrace those moments. Embrace those moments when you want to just stay in bed, when you're just bawling, crying, and see the future. Understand that it's a season, and see the future. See what that future is going to be, and it's going to be okay. And sometimes I don't believe the season future thing, but I keep following it.
Yes, and we keep pulling ourselves back, right? We just kind of pull ourselves back on track. I'm going to give shout outs to Landon and Matthew and Pete and all you guys watching. Thanks so much for hanging out with us. Yeah, because we're telling the Mark and Shannon story, and it's one that you really want to pay attention to, because there's so many lessons that we all learn from Mark, but to hear them from you, to hear how you raised your children together, how you lived together, how you went through those moments together, it brings a whole new light to Mark and to how deeply he impacted so many people. And yeah, it's like it's hard to quit knowing that he didn't know how to quit. Right? It's hard.
If I can back up just a little bit, Layla, too, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking, when you ask me about what kind of advice is, it'll be 5 months in January that Mark had passed away, and I had shared my journey. Now, I know not everybody has lost somebody that close to them, but everybody has pain. Everybody has pain, and that pain is so deep. And going through this, I just have a new sense of sympathy or empathy, just care, love for people, and whatever it is they're going through. Like, it's deep. Like, I've never had a pain this deep. And there's other people, maybe they're, maybe it's whatever they're dealing with and they're having suicidal thoughts, or maybe it's, whatever pain maybe it's a childhood pain, something happened to them. Talk about it. Maybe you're not me and you're going to share it to the public, but somehow with whatever group you can share it with, there is somebody out there who is going to be impacted by your story. And it may just be one person, but if it's just one person, is it not worth it? Don't hold it in. Share it. Just share it. It's healing. For me, it's healing to share with people, to get it out there. And maybe, publicly it's not your way of sharing, but share it somehow, some way, because someone will hear your story and that will help them. It's going to help them. That's what we're here for. We go through things. Our paths have led us down certain paths for a reason, and if we share it, it's going to help someone. So I guess that's part of it, is thinking of others. Like I told Mark, this goes back actually into play back when Mark was first starting, and it was the business, the travel company was starting to pick up, and more money was starting to roll in, and he was getting more stressed out. And he was actually at that point thinking, like, I don't know if I made the right decision. Like, what am I doing? And I remember looking at him in the eye, and I think he's told this story before, but I remember looking at him and I said, Mark, I said, do you ever think that this might not be about you? That it's about other people and all the people that he's impacting? And he was just, quiet, of course. Whenever I said something like good, I knew it was good, because he'd get quiet. Yeah, exactly. And then he'd bring it up, maybe a week or two later or whatever. But, that's one thing we got to realize, is sometimes it's not about us. It's about others, and who can it impact, and who's going to benefit from us. And I think if we can get out of ourselves, it just changes things. It changes life.
Yeah, absolutely. I think everybody they're tapping on those hearts. I see them all streaming up there. Everyone's saying thank you for your transparency. And that's just the truth, right? When you share your pain, when you are transparent about it, because we all have pain, we all have these struggles and fears that we deal with. And when we can talk about it, we can inspire even just that one person that needs to hear, that message. So I know that for me, it was, any chance that I could have to keep Mark's legacy alive, to keep the vision and the teachings that I know had been so impactful on my business, on me as a mother, on me as a wife, just to allow those to be shared with other people. I'm like, we have got to get these teachings, these courses, these videos, these aha moments must be shared with other people. And it really has been a motivating force to, help the Empire strike back and to be part of the vision and the movement now. So let's talk about because all these people that are watching, or they'll probably watch the replay. So if you are, here with us live, put your hashtag live so we can see you. But if you're in replay land, we love you too. But yes, all of these people, a lot of them have been impacted by Mark. How did that feel? Like, explain that. How did that feel to have so many people, just giving all of this praise and, recognizing his strength and power and what he's done for so many?
Yeah. So then I have to go back to when he was first starting out. And I remember, now this isn't just to poof me up or anything, but because Mark has shared these stories. But I remember one time I don't know if it was Solomon's CEO he created or what product it was he was creating, but he always asked me to pray, as the launch was happening or for the product or whatnot. And I remember, I'll just say it was Solomon's CEO because I think it was. And I remember praying that it would go out to the world. Not just like our niche, not just the United States, but I prayed specifically that the whole entire, and he called me, he's like, well, that's getting a little crazy there, because at that time, technology wasn't as advanced as it is now, but it was possible. But he thought that was a little much that I would ask that, it would spread around the world. And so
share it with the world.
Yeah. So for me, I never doubted him. I never doubted that he could touch the world. But when he, when the funeral was there and there was already 7 or 10K people who viewed it during the funeral on the live, so 40 or more people sharing it on Facebook, and my inbox getting flooded with people saying how he impacted their lives. It was overwhelming. We had, Africa and the UK and China, you name the country, and someone almost from there, whatever, reached out to me. And I think for me, it's motivating because I knew Mark's heart, and I knew that it was for others, and he wanted and still wants nothing more than for people to succeed. He wants people because he understands that the impact you can have if you do succeed. And so it's humbling. It's very honoring. It's humbling to have been married to him, to be able to support him through that, and to know that he did so much good, that so many people, it's a good feeling they got from him. Can you imagine having that, feeling that? What a legacy.
Yeah, huge legacy. And yeah, some people are commenting that, he did touch the world and your prayer actually came true, and, your prayer was answered. And, it's like thinking about that ripple effect, that stone in a pond, and just how many more ripples Mark has been able to create in his family and in his wife now, who's out there creating waves herself. And, it really almost takes my words away, because I can't put it into words how I feel when I think about his legacy, when I think about the impact and who he was to so many of us, and who he was to me and you. It's it is almost overwhelming. I can't imagine those messages coming in, and I just was like, oh, yeah.
I think the best
but we've all, we all kind of, I feel like it almost brought us together, and it brought us to this new chapter together. And we all, like, there was thousands of people that watched the funeral, and the many people, hundreds of people that supported the family, and all of that stuff, like, it really brought us together for this chapter that was meant to happen. That, now we're meant to take what Mark's taught us. We're meant to take these lessons and these bolts of Mark and share them and, like, keep that vision going. So that kind of leads me to my final question, is why it's so important to keep Mark's vision, memory, and his value, and these teachings and these courses, why it's so important to keep that alive. And, I know that when everything happened, that was like, I wanted to do anything that we could to help the family. And the biggest motivator was because I knew that the world needed Mark. The world, even though he was gone, like, the world would be a better place if everyone had a Mark, right? If everyone had a Mark under their butt, lighting their fire, teaching them this stuff, like, it would be such an amazing place. So I knew that anything that I could do to help spread that message and share these courses and share the empire and share his vision was, like, my heart was right there. But for you, as his wife, you've had big shoes to fill, but it's why is it so important to you?
Yeah, so I don't ever expect to fill his shoes. That is definitely not the case, but to continue his shoes moving and traveling.
Yeah.
It's very important for me because I saw the behind the scenes late nights and his heart and his sweat and his thinking, and just thinking of everyone who was going to watch his teachings, his heart that was poured into it, and just really wanting, I saw the sweat, I saw the time, and I saw his heart and the love go into each and every product. And I also, the travel product that we still have, that was like the beginning of it. Like, the sweat and the time and the hard work that he put into that company, and then eventually bought it. And so now we own it. I'm just like, that is what made us rise, and to see where we were before promoting that product and then being able to buy it and now be able to continue. Like, it's just, there's a lot of emotions in that one specifically for me because it's where we began. And so there's a lot of, it's hard, it's emotion. And I saw Solomon's CEO, and a lot of the leaders in the industry have went through that course, and so that's what changed their business and made it take off. So, like, hearing all of the testimonies of, like, that changed my life, Mark changed my life, that course, I could keep going, that course. And it's important to me. It's important to at least give it a run to keep them going. I would feel not complete if I didn't give it a try. Yep.
We will not quit. Absolutely. And we have, like, even well, people can see it down there, the lifestyle freedom formula, like that whole shift in owning your life, owning your time, owning your memories, and creating experiences. Like, that's something that Mark really ignited within me, and encouraged in so many people to, travel the world and get paid for it, to take these experiences and these holidays and take their families, and really create those moments. So yeah, that's definitely one that's really important for us to keep alive. And if you guys are seeing that and you're like, well, what is the lifestyle freedom formula? Like, how do I travel? I want to be a adventurepreneur, as Tommy G calls it. I love that. I love that movement. If you want to say, type in the comments lifestyle, and we'll share with you guys the formula that is helping people to really own their life and take it back and keep Mark's memory alive. And I almost feel like he is he is the coach inside of the empire still. Like, he is still in all of us every day, in that community and in the teachings and in the lessons that he has laid out for us. It's like you still get him in a way. It's really amazing. So yeah, we'll wrap it up. I see some lifestyles. We'll hook you guys up so that you can see some of the awesome sauce that we're working on together, and sharing the vision of Mark and sharing his passion for traveling and seeing the world.
Well, Mark always said, he said, if you want to get to know somebody, well, it used to be before, flights became more affordable. It used to be go on a road trip with them. And so, that was one of the requirements before we got together, is we had to go on a road trip together, because you really get to know who a person is. And so then if you want to get to know somebody, it doesn't have to be a road trip, but travel with them, because you're going to really get to know who they are in different situations if you travel with them. So
yeah, I mean, that was like that was a huge part of your life together, was traveling, because he'd been preaching this lifestyle freedom formula for so long, and I know that just in my Facebook audience, there's like, every time I do a post about traveling, people are like, yeah, I want, like, it's like an innate desire, a human need within us to adventure and see the world. How was, like, just share some of, I don't know, some of the stories that come to mind of traveling with Mark.
Well, I remember at first, I mean, you know what, we were just a perfect match for traveling, because we didn't really get under each other's nerves. But I do remember, at first, you have this old mindset, and then a new mindset comes in. Like, so I'm this little small town South Dakota girl who was, getting to travel to Hawaii and all these different places. And I remember at first Mark would take, because he was the owner of this company, or the top affiliate, whatever. And I remember on the trip, he'd take a day or something, or several hours out of the day to work just with his laptop, and I remember this is, some of the bad moments of a wife that comes out, but I remember thinking, just be with me. Like, why are you working? And like, in reality, it's like, holy crap. Like, I am in Hawaii. I am traveling. I am sitting next to the ocean while he's working. Like, who cares? You know what I mean? So it's like, I think at first it was an adjustment of like, because, you have this old mindset, the old school way, where you only get 2 weeks of vacation and you got to make, a year. And so when you are on vacation, you got to make sure like you're all in. Except for now, I hadn't realized yet that these vacations were coming more and more and more. And this was like our life. And so it didn't matter if he spent a couple hours during the week, working, because we were adventuring. I'm getting to see all these new places I had never gotten to see before. Horseback riding in the Ozarks, and hiking where Tommy G is right now in Kauai, hiking the mountains and trails, along the ocean there, and getting to go to Mexico to the deep sea fishing and catching my dream sailfish, which Mark, by the way, he did. This was a really funny story. And so I'll tell this story and then you can lead it where it goes. But so this is a funny, he takes me to Mexico for, I think it was Mexico. It was Mexico and it happened to be over my birthday. Totally surprised me. He just knew I wanted to do something over my birthday. This would have been, I don't know, 3 years ago, 4 years ago. And so he wakes up. So usually I'm easy. Like, I'm an easy wife. Whatever he wants to do, like, I'll just follow along. Let's do it. I might mention, hey, let's go eat here. Maybe can we go here? But I'm just like, let him, because he's more fun anyways. Like, Mark, he makes everything more fun. So I let him do his thing. So we go and he wakes up, and it happens to be my birthday. And I remember he's laying in bed. He's told the story before. He's laying in bed, his eyes are shut. Before he opens them, he thinks, okay, it's her birthday. I'm going to let her choose whatever she wants to do. And like, I grew up like fishing with my dad. So it's like this fond memory. And I'm like, I've always wanted to catch this big fish and reel it in, right? So anyways, he's like, well, it's your birthday. He's like, he would rather like go scuba diving or, lay on the beach or whatever, something, or the zip lining, whatever, And he's like, so what do you want to do? Anything you want? And I was like, deep sea fishing, yes. And he was just like, oh my gosh. And he was like, all right, let's do it. Because, in reality, deep sea fishing is not that glorious. You're on this little boat that smells like gas. It's weaving up and down, at least in Mexico anyways. It's like, bumpy. I think Mark ended up throwing up over the side of the boat and whatnot. But I got my fish on my birthday, and I haven't. Oh, so my point is, I had to hide that fish when it came in. He let me get it mounted. When it came in, I had to hide it, so I had to like hang it up in my bedroom closet. You know what? Dang it! I'm going to show you guys this fish.
Yeah, show us the fish.
I have it.
Show
I'm in
us
my
the fish.
office.
Who wants to see the fish? If you want to see the fish, say show us the fish.
We're going to show you the fish because I am so proud. Proud of this fish, and then we'll be over it. But it's kind of exciting for me. So this is going to be my glory mark. I'm going to show the
So
world.
you smuggled the fish back out of Mexico then?
No, I didn't smuggle it. They mount it.
They just let you take giant fish?
Have the people that do it. Anyways, there's my
fish.
Look at how beautiful that is.
Okay, let's give her some props for that fish because that is a nice fish. Way to go, Shannon.
So there you go. It took only, 14 years of marriage, but he let me get my fish. So anyways.
It's honestly those memories, right? And that's what I love about, just the lifestyle freedom formula is the fact that you're preaching your life. Your product is these moments, these memories that you create.
Those memories you can't take back. And the ski trips, the family ski trip started because of the product in our company. And Mark started that with our family 5 years ago. And I'm going to keep that going. Like those memories that we have skiing together are priceless. I'm talking, you come in from a day of skiing, you talk about all the falls you had, all the triumphs you had, the drinks, the food, whatever. It's like my kids, to see the expressions on their face and their excitement, they're way more excited for us, our family, to go snow skiing than they are even the beach. It's like they love the beach, and we've taken many beach trips too. But it's just like, those memories, those kids are going to be talking about those memories, till they die.
Yeah, it's amazing. And definitely that's one of the passions of Mark that we are, keeping alive, is that gift of traveling and creating those moments and experiences and rituals and memories with your family. And that legacy, truly that legacy. So again, guys, if you want more info on the lifestyle freedom formula, just type
they're liking my fish.
Lifestyle. What'd you say? Oh yeah, and your fish. Fist bumps on the fish. People were saying you have a nice fish, so that's good. Thanks for hanging out with us all for the whole thing. We have people that have been here since the very beginning. And I know we've gone over an hour. Usually I don't have Facebook Lives this long, but there was so much goodness, so much value, and just so many happy memories that we all have, and so many of these, impactful lessons that if we really take the time to reflect on what we've learned from our journey with Mark, from, the first time that you met him. When was the first time that you met Mark? Share that moment. And really think about that moment. And I said to Toby, I'm like, give me all of those courses so that I can put them in my ear all over again. I listened to them when I first bought them years ago, but to go back through them and just get all of that amazing wisdom that he had to share with us, really, it is a legacy that will keep living. It will live forever, for sure. So thanks so much, Shanny, for coming out and sharing. I really appreciate it. So everybody, they did say they wanted the blog. If you guys want the blog, you still want to check out her blog, say, yes, we want her blog. Because I just did creep it, and it's super awesome. So yeah, we'll give you guys Shanny's blog so that you can follow more of her journey, more of her stories, and more of her adventures in this new chapter of her life. Yes, they say give it to me.
Thank you, by the way, for inviting me. Just even being on here and getting to share just a tiny little piece of the story and speaking it out versus just writing, it just added to the healing and, even gave me more ideas and more things to think about or to share. And I really appreciate that. So thank you for wanting it out there. And it was a blessing to me. Thank you.
Yes, and guys, share this message out. Share it on your wall. Share it with your group. Share it on your fan page, because that's the whole point, is to keep this message spreading, to keep the memories and the lessons and the teachings alive. and grow and learn and rock out this next chapter together. And, you know, that's what Mark would want. And I know that he's cheering us for sure. He's cheering us. He's like, look at them together. I knew that they would work together one day. Right?
Well, this is just the beginning. This is just the beginning, Layla.
Yes, it is. Just the beginning. And it is only going to get better. I can't wait till we're on the beaches of the world together, sipping cocktails. I think that's
the
due.
First one will do kid-free.
Yeah. We need some adulting time. You guys want to go on vacation with us? I bet you do.
My mother wants to go on vacation with us.
You guys want to go on vacation?
A little beach time.
We're on our way. Where's the next one? So Canada's supposed to have like this super dangerous low, like minus 65 over the next 3 weeks. So I was looking at some resorts. I'm like, maybe we should dip.
Get out. You know, and that's the funny thing that you say that. It was like because we lived in North Dakota for several years and I'm back here and we're the same. It's like the wind chills of like below 30. And so Mark would always, every February, that's when we take our Hawaii trip, every February. So I've actually been starting to kind of tinker around a little bit myself.
Oh, well, maybe we should keep that tradition alive. I'd be down for that. Okay, so join us on the beaches of the world. Type lifestyle if you want to check out the formula, see what we're working, what we're cooking up to help share Mark's vision and that passion that he had to help people succeed. And thanks so much, Shanny. I appreciate you. Oh yeah, your blog. It's Shannon Hoverson, right? Let me just type it.
ShannonHoverson.com.
ShannonHoverson.com. Okay.
Oh, I like it. You got the same accent as me, Hoverson.
The Hoversons down from South Dakota. Okay, awesome. Well, thanks so much. I'm going to end this. We're going to wrap it up. Share this. Tag a friend. Give Shanny lots of love because she did awesome. Thanks so much for being so transparent and sharing the story. And like you said, this is just the beginning.
Love you,
Appreciate
Layla.
you.
Love you.
Okay.